Alright everyone, today we've got a slurry of new polling. I'll be talking mostly about that later in my live stream, and I think that's going to be at 5:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm not 100% sure because I hate time zones. Normally it's 8:30, but of course I'm over here in the Netherlands. But I wanted to fixate on one state particularly, which is Nevada. Nevada has not gone for a Republican in a very, very long time. About 20 years, well, literally 20 years. It's been a number of election cycles. It had been looking like it was moving well in the other direction. It was going to become a lean blue state, more like a Colorado or something like that. Colorado was a swing state 20 years ago. It's not really a swing state right now. I don't think that Trump really has a chance there. But along with several other states, we see the redrawing of the old political map. Every generation, it's roughly every 20, 25 years or so. With each generation, the demographic map of what happens in our elections changes over time. The old post-Clintonian consensus is basically it's crashed and burned. So that, technically it's the post-Reagan consensus. Reagan gets into office. He's sort of the transitional president before Donald Trump, by the way. Trump and Obama would be transitional, I would say. Transitional fossils in the future. What happens is that Ronald Reagan knocks it out of the park. Herbert takes over, Herbert Walker Bush. He fails completely, has one term. Clinton basically took Reaganism, added a little bit more welfare, and happened to be 30 years younger and said, he called it a day, basically. That map that you see from the 90s and the 2000s and the first half of the 2010s is effectively gone. The general concept of a steadily deeper and deeper blue Rust Belt quite clearly is not a thing. If you look at polling from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, now Minnesota, these states and in the Upper Lakes and Rust Belt region, that consensus is gone. Florida had been moving more red. It's stabilized now, so you've got a stability there. And Nevada's swinging back in the other direction, much like Colorado is getting more blue. I would say that it is likely that Donald Trump will win the state of Nevada. If I had to give odds of any of the competitive states tilting towards him enough so that I would say, yeah, it would definitely be Nevada. I don't consider Georgia and North Carolina competitive at this point, by the way. We've got too much polling showing Trump too far ahead, off and outside of the margin of error. It's about the same, about 5 points. I think those are off the table. It's sort of like the idea that Donald Trump is going to grab Colorado again. Doubtful. We also need more polling from places like Maine and New Hampshire. A lot of the polls that we have seen from them, they're not aggregated. Virginia is the big one because we've got two tied polls in a row, both aggregated, so these are scientific polls. One more and you can clearly declare that it's a swing state. And of course the other polls showing Biden fairly narrowly ahead, not even by Georgia margins in the other direction. Those are outdated polls at this point. Nevada, I would expect in the end to go for Trump. The real hard one to guess is Arizona, technically speaking. Because while Trump is steadily ahead in Arizona, by a decent margin, so he leads there, you also have Maricopa County. And as we've seen, that can be a problem. So I'm jury's out on that one. I'm 50-50 on Arizona, but I'm like 90-10 for Trump in Nevada. I do not believe that the conviction of Donald Trump will change this metric. We've got enough new polling now to say the public effectively rolled its eyes and didn't change its mind at all on that one. It didn't boost turnout for liberals, or doesn't seem to. It didn't reduce the enthusiasm of GOP voters, and in fact it probably did the opposite. Didn't affect independent voters much. If anything, Trump got a point or two, and that was predictable. I believe, though, Nevada is steadily coming off the table. Because when it looks like Minnesota or Virginia are going to be the 50-50 states, the ones that in the end will be the total toss-ups, where you're nail-biting on election night, and it's not a state like Nevada or Pennsylvania or Georgia. Pennsylvania is leading red now too, although only by a couple of points. That's dire for the Biden campaign in every possible way. It's not the electoral map they wanted to see. I believe that what we're seeing is the building of a new political consensus. It'll probably last for about 5 cycles. This is generational. Before the Reagan consensus, of course, you have the mid-nuclear era sort of consensus, the JFK and all of these others, Ike. Then before that, you have sort of the World War II era consensus. You could say interwar consensus around that time. going back at least to the roaring 20s, and then you have a different consensus. Every 20, 25 years, you're building a new one because you've got a new generation voting that's come to age. You have the movement of demographics, you have the movement of wealth and race and all of these other things, and it can shift fairly rapidly. People in 2016, they couldn't believe the concept that the Rust Belt would turn red. It did. It snapped back because of fickle Democratic voters that had voted for Trump because they were afraid of Hillary. Now they've got something even worse to vote against, namely Joe Biden. I have a feeling that several of those states will go red again. They're now true swing states, although the consensus could collapse after Trump. That's possible. It's just historically we wouldn't expect that to happen. That's the other thing. Liberals would like to think that Donald Trump is like a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. That's probably not going to end up being the case. Whoever comes next is going to have to uphold the mantle of MAGA to win anyway, and so I think he's permanently changed the GOP. Largely for the better. At least, again, for that generational period. So around the time that I'm hitting my mid-50s, I would expect something else unorthodox and extreme and scary to the establishment to happen, and then it goes off in some other meandering direction. We have Red Nevada, 90% chance. If the election were held today, it'd be a 90% chance. Now, it could go back. It could be that Biden does something intelligent for once and gains several points of support. Then Nevada's, is within nail-biting range, and then the ballot printers take care of the rest. Right now, though, I just don't really see it happening. I think that there are too many states that are tilting too far red at this point so that if the election were held today, they would even be able to ink enough ballots in order to compensate for that. That's about all. Peace out.